everyone, welcome. Let's talk a bit about Qi Gong. So today, let's see what question we got. Okay, from episode 48, Riker King, 2 weeks ago. Okay, what do you think about Yong Yu Nian's second voluntary movements theory? Oh yeah, I remember this question. Last time I answered your question wrong. I was talking about Master Jung's involuntary movements, which is spontaneous movement, which he's also famous for. But you were actually asking about the voluntary movements theory, which he's also famous for. He made up quite a few, each one, no, new techniques of Qigong that he added into each one because he ran a lot of experiments on his patients, teaching the health aspect of Qigong. He was a dentist by trade, but he ended up doing a lot of good work for the hospitals of China, if I remember correctly. One of the things he did taught was voluntary movements that you're asking about, which is really simple. When you're standing, at first, you develop the ability to root your body, to line up your body, right? And you using imageries, usually like you hang from a string, and then as you do that, your vertebrae starts to create a little bit more space as you stretch your spine. You find your alignment and balance the point and also on your feet. And as you're standing more and more, using the imagery to open up your arms, supporting your arms, buffering your body, opening up your pores, opening up your joints and your bones, inflating the area in your ribs, and you just stand and let gravity do the rest. As you stand, your mind will start yapping, right? But as you stand longer and longer, your mind will enter stillness. Usually at that point, all the blood will start to drop around the stomach area, your immune system, and things will start eventually to sprout all the way up your pores, the tip of the head, tip of the finger, bottom of the feet, resulting in great circulation, and you get more energy. For those that stand way past that, you start to get this sensation that you're breathing from the bones in the pore. That usually happens naturally if someone stands a lot. If they don't stand enough for that to happen naturally, the teacher usually at that point, once they learn how to root, will start teaching them how to do it on purpose, right? But please don't just wing it, guys. If you want to learn this, go find a teacher that specializes in it for safety reasons. And once someone can do that, the bone breathing part, if they stand past that, it'll go into the feel or the aura, the expansive feeling. This is usually where each one stops. And then if you want to go further in that, you can research a system like the Heaven Mountain system or the Wild Goose system, the more ancient systems of Qigong. And then usually after that, they'll start working past the field where things are coming in and spontaneous movement starts to happen. For those that have experienced that level of training, it is way more powerful in terms of healing. Really good for people with chronic fatigue, adrenaline fatigue, brain fog, overwhelming stress, blockages in the joints. All these things are really good if you can get into the spontaneous movement from the standing, right? And that's easily learned if you have learned the spontaneous movement from the movement Qigong, which gets injected into your standing. It sounds complicated, but it's actually really simple. You learn movement Qigong to the point that it has spontaneous movement, and then you learn standing, like most people do, and then it gets injected into the standing, and then it just accelerates. In terms of voluntary movement that you're asking about, that's usually at a point where once you start posting, you start having the ability to feel micro inches in your muscles, which all athletes can do. So it's nothing mysterious, right? You pick a muscle. So let's say your left calf muscle or something, and you tense it to maybe about 80% or maybe 50% of tension. And then once you tense it, you release the tension. And then maybe you do your right leg, and then you do your right forearm, crisscrossing with your left leg, left forearm, crisscrossing with your right leg. Then you start working on different sections in your back and your spine, practicing tensing and releasing, tensing and releasing. That's one famous exercise that Master Yong Yun Yang has done. He has a bunch of other ones, which I'm not qualified to talk about because I didn't study his system. But I remember I had a good friend that did, and that was one of the exercises to talk about. He asked me what I think of it. I think it's great because it reminds me exactly the same as somatic style stretching. Like, for example, if you're stretching your forearm muscles, you know how sometimes you just stretch? If you hold it for like 70 seconds or something, and then you release it like normal stretching, it feels great, right? But if you do somatic style stretching, that is, you tense this muscle first, maybe to about 30%, very gently, you tense, and then you relax and stretch. So you get about, probably about 200% a better stretch. Simply because you tense first. And the reason why it works a lot better if you tense first is you're actually hacking and teaching your nervous system to release the chronic tension command. Because a lot of time you're tense, not because of the muscle themselves, it's because there's something chronic in your nervous system that's giving it a command to tense that part of your body. Usually it's usually from bad posture, like you're typing a lot, or you're driving a lot, or you're reading in a certain position, becomes a habit. So your nervous system subconsciously is sending that synapses, is sending that command, tense that muscle, right? So for you to learn to just stretch that muscle is not going to change anything because you have a habit of tensing that muscle with your nervous system or your mind's command. After you finish stretching, you might feel good for 5 minutes, but then the brain gives the same chronic command again to tense that muscle. So now no matter how much you stretch, you always get tension there, which will result in pain eventually, right? But when you do somatic style stretching and you tense a bit first, now you train your body to be fully aware of the tension in that spot. By doing that, after the tension, then you release and stretch, you're actually not just changing the muscle, but you're changing the command in your central nervous system. So somatic style stretching is really, really effective for that. To make it even more effective, people will visualize and breathe from that spot. So as they're tensing, and then when they release to relax, they breathe from that spot. Breathe in from that spot, breathe out from that spot. Now they make it twice as effective. And to make it 3 times more effective, sometimes people will put acupuncture needles in there as they're learning to tense and release that spot, right? So a lot of massage therapists nowadays will use that kind of technique. The reason why it works so well is when you tense and then you relax, there's contrast, tension and relaxation. And human feels and sees the clearest through contrast. Like if I want to see my hand or an object, it's because of the space contrasting with what is solid that allows my eye to see. That's common sense, right? So we feel the same way. So when someone lacks the ability to turn off tension in their body, once they can feel the tension, it's easy to feel the relaxation. They go hand in hand. So tensing before relaxing is way more effective, right? So that's just somatic style stretching. And then when you look at Master Yang Yunnan's standing technique that he pioneered, which is standing and to the point where you're on purpose while you're standing, you feel a certain muscle and you practice tensing it gently and then relaxing it, is essentially having the same effect as somatic style stretching that I just described previously. In other words, it's exceptionally excellent to teach people to release the tension in their muscles that they can't get rid of no matter how much they stretch, for example. So you asked me what I think of it. From my limited knowledge, I find it to be excellent. Because I remember when I had joint pains and I was stretching a lot, when I was doing martial arts a lot, no matter how much I stretched, it didn't work out very well. But my massage therapist friend that taught me somatic style stretching that I was talking about got rid of all my joint pains within 3 months, I think it was, especially in my hip when I was kicking a lot. So I find it working exceptionally well. So I find Master Yang Yunnan's technique, I think it will work excellent. I don't practice it myself, but it has the same central nervous system theory from what my friend and massage therapist friend said. So I think it's excellent. But for those that are looking to do standing for martial power or to cure chronic fatigue, this kind of technique's not designed for that. So it's not going to have much effect on that. So it's important for you to understand what your goals are to take the right medicine. All the techniques are good, but you got to do the right technique for the right objective. If your objective is to release blockages in the muscle layer, fascia and tendon, then I think somatic style stretching or this kind of Qigong technique will work great. But if your goal is for more energy, then this kind of technique is not going to work that well. It's not designed for that. It's designed for the muscle layer. For chronic fatigue, classical each one standing would be a lot better. Even if you want to use physical, like the tree shaking exercise in each one, like where you move your hands to the left, but body to the right, move your hands to the right, but a body to the left. Same thing with up and down, forward and backward. So you create a kind of shaking movement. That's what they call shaking the tree when we're standing. And when you're moving like maybe a millimeter. So if someone's walking by watching you do it, it doesn't even look like you're moving at all, right? When you develop that kind of tree shaking pose training, what that does is you're not tensing, but you're learning how to move from the center, but you don't know you're doing it. Let's say if you're moving the ball, for example, right? And you're relaxing, you're moving the ball, nothing's going to happen. Doesn't matter how much you do it. But if someone has done the proper posting first, like he went through 6 months of lining up the bone, opening up the pore, opening up the joints, rooting into the ground, taking the head and pressing to the ceiling, creating the space in the vertebrae, learning the proper breathing down here, expanding the ribs, all that stuff, feeling the back. You have done that for a while. The mind has shut up. All the blood has gone into the stomach. Sprouting starting to happen. Excellent circulation in the finger and the toes. At that point of training, about 6 months, now if he starts moving, things will start to happen. Even if he's just thinking about shaking the tree or moving the ball, moving about a millimeter, eventually, just by doing that, he'll start to feel heat in the stomach. Usually at that point, students or teachers will mistake that for qi, but it's not. It's just the way that you're posting and uniting the body. When you're starting to move the ball, without you knowing, because you have sent out of blood down here, you will feel the excess of the movement from the center. And the more you do it, the more the center will heat up. So now you think it's your qi. In a way it is, but really it's just you uniting the muscles and experiencing body unity. Or what the founder of each one, Wang Hingzai, he says in Chinese, 肌肉如一. 大动不如小动，小动不如一靜，肌肉如一. That means big movement is not as good as small movement. Small movement is not as good as stillness. And he was talking about a tree shaking. When that happens, 肌肉如一 means all the muscles in the body becomes one. So your body is united. That's an example of how it's related to the tension and relaxation exercise you're talking about, but just the way you do it differently will have a different effect. So when you're playing with the muscular exercise in each one, not even talking about the qi, just the technique you talk about with the tension and relaxing, and the second example I just gave you was shaking a tree, that's just muscle exercise in each one, right? Even if you just play the physical muscular exercise in each one, you have to understand that every time you do something with your intention differently, it has a complete different objective and a different benefit. So when you do Qigong exercises, sometimes it's good to look at it like medical Qigong and know what you're doing it for. But I always recommend people to pose train just to cure chronic fatigue because it's exceptionally effective for that, right? So classical, each one standing using the imagery would be more effective for that. Anyways, that's all the time we have for that. All right. Got any more questions, guys? Please post it below. Also, happy holidays. And I hope to see you guys in the Qigong community. Next class will be Thursday. We're going to be working on, I think, because we always cycle with trading, we'll be working on the chair sitting Qigong and all the medical Qigong for the 5 elements and the organs, which is really good for people with chronic fatigue and they're too weak to stand. It's very effective for getting your energy back. Some students has really reported it helped them out. So if you're interested, follow the links below. Hope to see you there. See you next week.